What if I told you that the most decorated female boxer on planet Earth is currently engineering her own spectacular downfall, and the man she thinks is her ride-or-die partner is quietly using her as a human ATM machine while still being legally bound to another woman? What if I told you that the same champion who demands unconditional respect from every interviewer, every blogger, and every fan who dares breathe in her direction just got publicly diagnosed as delusional by not one, not two, but three separate radio personalities on the same day? And instead of taking the hint, she woke up at dawn firing off threats like a cornered animal. What if I told you that a media empire built on accountability and brutal honesty just bent the knee to a boxer who has not even sold out an arena that she claims is already packed? Because that is exactly what is happening right now with Claressa Shields, and the tea that is about to spill is going to reframe everything you thought you understood about this situation. I need y'all to sit down for this one because the layers of delusion, manipulation, and straight-up fraud that are about to get unpacked are going to make your head spin. And by the time we get to the end of this, you are going to understand exactly why Claressa Shields is lashing out, why the people around her are enabling the delusion, and why the truth that nobody wants to say out loud is finally breaking through the carefully constructed facade. So here's where things stand. Claressa Shields apparently woke up yesterday morning at 8:12 a.m. with rage coursing through her veins, and the first thing she decided to do was not train for the biggest fight of her career that is supposedly happening in less than 2 weeks at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. No. The first thing Claressa Shields decided to do was hop on social media and start firing shots at anyone who had the audacity to ask her a perfectly reasonable question about her relationship with a man who is still, at this very moment, legally married to another woman. She posted about how she loves when the ops team up, threw in some laughing emojis to make it seem like she was unbothered, and then dropped her favorite go-to insult, calling people poor, pissed, and losing. But here's the thing about Claressa Shields and those laughing emojis. When somebody is genuinely amused, they do not wake up before sunrise to craft a response to something that supposedly does not bother them. That is not the behavior of someone who is winning. That is the behavior of someone who got hit with a truth so uncomfortable that the only defense mechanism they have left is to perform confidence they do not actually possess. And the reason I know this is because the pattern is identical every single time. Claressa Shields gets confronted with a fact she cannot spin, and instead of addressing the fact, she attacks the person who delivered it. She calls them broke. She calls them a hater. She calls them poor and losing. But she never, ever addresses the substance of what was said. And that right there tells you everything you need to know about where Claressa Shields actually is mentally. Because the gap between her public bravado and her private reality has grown so wide that it is practically a canyon at this point. Now, to understand why Claressa Shields was so triggered, we need to rewind to what happened the day before, because a woman named Shenica sat down for an interview and said something that cracked through the armor that Claressa Shields has been building around this entire narrative. Shenica looked directly into the camera and asked a question that every single interviewer should have been asking from day one, but most have been too afraid to pose. Girl to girl, how long are you going to still be with that man? That man needs to hurry up and finish up his business with her. If you mean so much to him, he is standing on the stage with you. He is managing you. He is taking a piece of your money. You mean a lot to his pockets and his life and his survival right now. So he needs to go ahead and finish that. And if he is not willing to finish it, then you need to ask yourself why you are still standing next to a man who will not even close the door on his previous marriage before opening it fully to you. Now, let that sink in for a moment. Shenica did not tiptoe around the issue. She did not soften the blow with diplomatic language or give Claressa Shields an easy escape route. She went straight for the jugular and framed the entire relationship in terms that are impossible to spin. She called Claressa Shields Plan B. She said that the way Papoose stood down for Remy Ma was something the community witnessed and celebrated, and that none of those signs of genuine devotion are visible with Claressa. She drew a direct line between the love story that Papoose and Remy Ma represented in the culture and the transactional arrangement that Papoose and Claressa Shields currently represent, and the contrast was devastating. And honestly, this is where the conversation shifts from celebrity gossip into something much deeper, because Shenica was not just throwing shade. She was articulating what a huge segment of the public has been thinking, but has been systematically shouted down for expressing. She gave voice to the quiet majority who have been watching this situation unfold and scratching their heads, wondering why nobody in the media is willing to say what is plainly obvious to anyone with functioning eyes and a basic sense of relationship dynamics. Let me tell you why I agree with every single word Shenica said, and why I think this interview might go down as the moment the tide permanently turned against Claressa Shields. This man, Papoose, built his entire public persona on being the ultimate ride-or-die husband. He stood by Remy Ma when she went to prison. He waited for her. He championed her comeback. He made their love story a central pillar of his identity as an artist and as a public figure. That story was woven into the fabric of hip-hop culture as a love story for the ages, the kind of loyalty that people point to as evidence that real love still exists in the entertainment industry. And now, suddenly, he is with Claressa Shields, and every single behavior pattern that defined him has evaporated like morning dew in the desert sun. The man who valued privacy above all else is now plastered across social media on a daily basis. The man who never aired his personal business is now the subject of daily blog posts, radio interviews, and podcast appearances. The man who was known for unwavering loyalty is now navigating a relationship with a woman while his divorce is allegedly filed but nowhere near finalized. And Claressa Shields wants us to believe that this is true love, that this is destiny, that this is anything other than a man who found himself in a financial and career crisis and identified the most lucrative lifeboat available? No, baby. This is not love. This is an arrangement. This is a transaction dressed up in the language of romance. And Shenica saw right through it on the first pass. The reason this interview clip landed like a bomb is because it confirmed what people have been sensing for months, but could not quite articulate. Claressa Shields is not in a relationship with a man who chose her freely and completely. She is in a relationship with a man who needed a financial lifeline and found one in the most decorated female boxer in the sport. Papoose is managing Claressa Shields. He is taking a percentage of her earnings. He is positioning himself to benefit from her platform, her fame, and her income. He is using her visibility to launch his daughter's business ventures and get them to a point where they are generating profit. It is all an agenda, and the most glaring piece of evidence that nobody seems to be connecting is that he was noticeably absent from this latest interview. Do you know why? Because the last time he was in the room during one of these interviews, he supposedly shouted yes from the background when Claressa was asked about marriage and having children, and it was so obviously staged that even the audience caught it. The entire moment felt manufactured, like a scene from a reality show that nobody asked for. So now he is ducking and dodging, letting Claressa Shields walk into the fire alone, repeat the rehearsed talking points he has fed her, and take all the heat while he stays safely behind the curtain pulling the strings. He is letting her go into these interviews by herself because he knows that if he is in the room, he might be asked a question he cannot answer without exposing the arrangement. And he cannot have that. So Claressa Shields walks in alone, says what she has been told to say, and walks out thinking she did great, while the hosts look at each other with pity and recognition that they just witnessed a performance, not a conversation. And here is where the story takes a turn that made my jaw hit the floor. Because after Shenica delivered that devastating assessment, the hosts of that very same interview, Shenica, Jock, and Shadi, all looked at each other and had a moment of collective realization. They literally exchanged glances and said, "Oh no, this is a delusional situation. We are not going to go back and forth with her about something that her man has rehearsed to her over and over again. This lie." They said that out loud, on a recorded interview, in front of Claressa Shields. The people sitting across from Claressa Shields recognized in real time that they were not having a genuine conversation with a confident woman in a healthy relationship. They were listening to a script. They were hearing talking points that had been drilled into someone's head by a man who was not even in the building. And instead of engaging with the delusion, they chose to disengage. They looked at each other and silently agreed that there was no point in debating a rehearsed narrative with someone who could not deviate from it. That is powerful. That is what calling somebody on their bluff actually looks like. And it is something that every single interviewer who has had Claressa Shields in their chair should have been doing from the beginning. But here is what really sent me over the edge. Because while all of this was happening, the Breakfast Club decided to weigh in, and what they said was so baffling, so infuriating, that I genuinely had to stop the recording and collect myself before I could continue. Charlemagne the God, a man who has built an entire career on reading people to filth and calling out delusion when he sees it, looked at Claressa Shields' response to being questioned about dating a married man and said that it was a good answer. He said he loved her response. He praised her for being calm about it. And I need to ask a very serious question here. Who is this man? Is this the same Charlemagne who made Lil Mama cry right in front of his face and did not even bother to apologize at the time? Is this the same Charlemagne who has built a brand on brutal honesty and unflinching accountability, who has made a career of being the one person in media willing to say the uncomfortable thing that everyone else is too afraid to say? Because suddenly, when it comes to Claressa Shields, all of that goes out the window and is replaced with grace, understanding, and compliments about her composure. The transformation is so complete and so jarring that it raises questions that I do not think anyone has been asking loudly enough. What kind of relationship does Charlemagne have with Claressa Shields that would compel him to co-sign an answer that every rational person in the room recognized as delusional? In what universe is it a good answer to be asked about dating a married man and respond with rehearsed deflections about divorce filings that may or may not actually exist? In what world does calmness equal correctness? Because I need to be very clear about something. A person can be calm and completely wrong at the same time. A person can be composed and deeply delusional simultaneously. Claressa Shields was calm in that interview because she had prepared answers. She had been coached. She knew what questions were coming because they have been coming for months. Calmness in the face of a predictable question is not a sign of strength. It is a sign of preparation. And the fact that Charlemagne, of all people, could not distinguish between genuine confidence and rehearsed composure is either a failure of his analytical abilities or an intentional blind spot designed to protect Claressa Shields from the scrutiny she deserves. And here's the part that truly disgusts me. Charlemagne, Jess Hilarious, and DJ Envy are all married. Every single one of them has a spouse. Every single one of them has built a life with a partner and made commitments that they are expected to honor. So I need to ask them directly, because the hypocrisy is staggering and it needs to be named. Would any of you be comfortable if your spouse hit a rough patch in your marriage and then suddenly started a relationship with another person, filed for divorce while already involved with that new partner, and then went on national radio talking about how wonderful the new relationship is? Would you be okay with someone praising your spouse's new partner for being calm while discussing the destruction of your marriage? Is that what you are co-signing? Because that is exactly what you are validating when you sit there and praise Claressa Shields for her composure instead of challenging her on the substance of what she said. You are telling every person who has ever been betrayed by a partner who moved on before the relationship was legally over that their pain does not matter. You are telling every spouse who has watched their husband or wife file for divorce while already entangled with someone new that they should just accept it gracefully. And you are doing it on a platform with millions of listeners, which means you are not just having an opinion. You are setting a cultural standard. The Breakfast Club crew sat there and acted like Claressa Shields is this intimidating force, this big bad wolf who might physically attack someone if the wrong question is asked. They carried on about how she was so calm and collected and how refreshing it was, as if they were relieved that she did not throw a punch in the studio. But let me tell you something, and I need y'all to hear me clearly on this. What was she going to do? If Claressa Shields had gotten physical in that radio studio, she would have been removed. She would have been escorted out by security. She would have been arrested and charged, and her career would have suffered consequences that no amount of media protection could shield her from. She is a professional boxer, yes, but that does not mean she gets to assault people in professional settings without consequence. The idea that interviewers need to walk on eggshells around Claressa Shields because she might snap is a fiction that she has been allowed to construct, and the Breakfast Club just reinforced it with their commentary. They gave her the exact thing she wanted, which is the perception that she is dangerous enough that people should be afraid to challenge her. The grace that is being extended to Claressa Shields is not normal. It is not proportional, and it is not consistent with how the Breakfast Club treats other guests who come in with similarly questionable situations. The double standard is so obvious that it practically announces itself with a bullhorn. When it is someone the industry wants to protect, the questions are soft, the praise is generous, and the accountability is non-existent. When it is someone they want to tear down, the interrogation is relentless, the jokes are cutting, and the delusion is called out by name without mercy. And whatever the mechanism is, it is preventing the public from getting the honest coverage that this story demands. Now let me get back to Claressa Shields herself, because her reaction to all of this is the most telling part of the entire saga, and it reveals something about her psychology that I think is critical to understand. When Shenica asked the question, Claressa did not respond with the same energy she brings to her social media posts. She folded. She dodged. She deflected. She did not want to elaborate. She did not give the fire that she gives when she is behind a keyboard calling people poor and losing. The woman who wakes up at dawn to fire off threats was suddenly quiet, measured, and evasive when sitting face-to-face with someone who asked her a direct question. And that tells you everything you need to know about the difference between internet Claressa and in-person Claressa. Online, she is a warrior. She is untouchable. She is the GWAT, the greatest of all time, and she will remind you of that in every single post. In the room, she is a woman with a script she cannot deviate from, because the truth is not something she can freely speak. The truth has to be rehearsed because it does not match the narrative. The truth has to be prepared because the natural answer would expose the gaps in the story she has been selling. And this is the thing that the hosts of that interview recognized immediately. And it is the thing that everyone who interacts with Claressa Shields professionally needs to internalize. If the truth remains the same no matter how you tell it, you do not need to rehearse your answers. You do not need to prepare specific responses to specific questions. You do not need to know which topics to dodge and which to engage with. You just tell it. The fact that Claressa Shields could only answer certain questions and dodged others with surgical precision tells you that she knows the timeline does not add up. She knows that she and Papoose have been together longer than they publicly admitted. She knows that the dates they have given do not align with the timeline of his separation from Remy Ma. She knows that the divorce filing she keeps referencing may not be as far along as she claims, because filed is not the same as finalized, and she deliberately uses the language of filed because it sounds like progress, while legally meaning very little. And here is another thing that made me sit up straight. Claressa Shields has been making statements about Remy Ma being with someone else, as if that justifies her own situation. But Remy Ma literally just confirmed a week ago that she is single. So whatever Claressa Shields thinks she knows about what Remy is doing is either based on outdated information, fabricated narratives, or deliberately planted stories designed to make her own arrangement look more equitable than it is. Instead of tracking Remy Ma's every move to make herself feel better, instead of monitoring what Remy is doing to try to create a false equivalence, Claressa Shields should be focused on making sure Papoose actually finalizes his divorce. She keeps saying he filed. Filed is not finalized. Filed is a piece of paper submitted to a court. Filed is the beginning of a legal process, not the end of one. And the fact that she is comfortable with the ambiguity, the fact that she treats filed as if it means the marriage is functionally over, tells you that she is not actually concerned about the legal reality. She is concerned about the perception. She wants the public to believe that the marriage is effectively over so that her relationship does not look like what it is, which is an affair with a married man that evolved into a public relationship before the marriage was legally dissolved. Now, I need to shift gears because there is another layer to this mess that involves Ray J, and it is equally revealing if you know how to read between the lines. Ray J recently went on TMZ to promote the upcoming Zeus Network boxing event on August 15th at State Farm Arena in Atlanta. And when he was asked about the event, he talked about his own fight. He talked about the Zeus brand. He talked about the entertainment value of the celebrity fights. He hyped up the comedy and the spectacle. And in that entire TMZ appearance, he did not mention Claressa Shields. He did not mention her name. He did not mention her fight as the main event. He did not reference her at all. Now, if you understand the dynamics of the fight game and the entertainment industry, you understand that this was not an accident. Ray J was on a major media platform with millions of viewers, and he chose to promote everything on the card except the one person who is supposedly the headliner. He was sending a message, whether intentionally or not, and the message was that the Zeus platform and the entertainment fights are what people are actually coming to see, not necessarily Claressa Shields. And Claressa Shields caught it immediately, because she monitors everything. She watches every clip, every interview, every mention of her name with the intensity of someone who knows that her public image is a house of cards that requires constant maintenance. She posted a response aimed at Ray J that basically said, "Yeah, right. Welcome to the quote show on August 15th, and reminded everyone that the fans are coming to see her." That post was not confident. It was defensive. It was the reaction of someone who felt themselves being erased from their own event. Someone who realized that a celebrity with a bigger media footprint than hers was treating her as a co-headliner at best and an afterthought at worst. And within 24 hours, Ray J flip-flopped completely. He issued what amounted to a walking back of his original comments and suddenly started talking about how there is no way he ever meant that his fight would be on the same level as Claressa Shields' fight. He said her fight is serious boxing and his fight is for entertainment. He thanked Claressa Shields for allowing them to be part of the night. He thanked Lemmy and Zeus. The entire tone shifted from independent promoter with his own spotlight to humble subordinate expressing gratitude for being included. Now, who got to Ray J? Was it Claressa Shields herself, calling him directly and reading him the riot act? Was it Papoose, making behind-the-scenes calls to flex what little industry influence he has left? Was it Lemmy from Zeus Network, recognizing that alienating the headliner of the card would create problems for the event? Somebody made a call. Somebody applied pressure. And Ray J, who had just been on TMZ speaking freely and authentically about his own fight and his own brand, suddenly reversed course and started saying things that clearly did not match his original energy. The contrast between his TMZ appearance and his follow-up statement was so stark that it could not be explained by a simple change of perspective. This was compliance. This was someone being told to fall in line and falling in line. And it reveals something important about the Claressa Shields playbook. She cannot force people to respect her through genuine achievement and authentic admiration alone. So she forces compliance through intimidation, through behind-the-scenes pressure, through social media campaigns designed to make anyone who questions her look like a hater, a broke person, or a loser. But the truth is, and this is the part that Claressa Shields does not want to hear, if she did not need the Zeus platform and the entertainment fights to sell tickets, she would not be on a joint card with them. She could have organized an all-professional boxing event. She could have filled the arena with legitimate boxing fans who appreciate her skill and her legacy. She could have proven her drawing power through pure sport. Instead, she is sharing a card with internet personalities, reality TV stars, and celebrity novelty acts. And that tells you everything about the actual commercial demand for Claressa Shields when she does not have controversy and drama driving the narrative. The Zeus platform is the umbrella. The celebrity fights are the bait. And Claressa Shields is the name on the poster, but the seats are not being filled by her name alone, and everyone involved in the promotion knows it. And this brings me to the most uncomfortable truth of all, the one that nobody in the media wants to say out loud, because it requires confronting Claressa Shields with verifiable, publicly accessible evidence. The fight is in less than 2 weeks. As of right now, today, you can go on Ticketmaster, pull up the event page for Claressa Shields vs. Kay Scott at State Farm Arena on August 15th and buy tickets. The fight is not sold out. Tickets are still available across multiple price points and seating sections. Claressa Shields has been going on interview after interview, podcast after podcast, radio show after radio show, and she keeps implying that demand is through the roof, that the event is the biggest thing happening in combat sports this summer, that everyone needs to recognize her as the draw. But the receipts are public. Anyone with an internet connection and 30 seconds of free time can verify that the arena has not reached capacity. So why is nobody asking her about this? Why is every interviewer content to let her talk about bloggers and haters and people in the comment section instead of confronting her with the verifiable fact that her event is underselling 2 weeks before the bell? Here is what should happen at the next interview. The next person who gets Claressa Shields in a seat should say, "You do not want to talk about Papoose. Fine, let us respect that boundary. Let us talk about the fight. Let us talk about why tickets are still available on Ticketmaster. Let us talk about why you need the Zeus platform and celebrity novelty fights to fill seats at State Farm Arena. Let us talk about what the actual numbers look like, what the gate is projected to be, and whether the event is on track to break even. And then let us see how Claressa Shields handles a question she has not rehearsed with Papoose. Let us see how she responds when the prepared script does not cover the topic. Let us see what happens when someone refuses to accept deflection and demands a substantive answer about her professional obligations rather than her personal drama. Because the truth is, Claressa Shields has been doing the same interview over and over again for months now. She talks about the same things. She attacks the same targets. She makes the same claims about being disrespected and underappreciated. There is nothing new being revealed. There is no fresh information. There is no insight that the audience has not already heard a dozen times. She is promoting a fight that is not selling tickets by picking fights with bloggers instead of answering legitimate questions about her professional obligations. And the media keeps letting her get away with it. And while all of this is happening, while the fight is underselling and the interviews are repeating the same tired material, Claressa Shields is online posting AI-generated images of herself that look nothing like her actual appearance. These Barbie doll facsimiles have been edited and altered to such a degree that they bear almost no resemblance to the real Claressa Shields. The facial features are smoothed and reshaped. The body proportions are adjusted. The overall aesthetic is closer to a digital avatar than a human being. And then a fan page had the audacity to add Papoose into one of these images, creating a completely fabricated visual of a couple that does not even look like the two people it is supposed to represent. The sweatshirt in the AI image said Claressa's biggest fan. And the word that the interview host used, delusional, is the only word that fits. It is the perfect word. It is the word that describes not just Claressa Shields, but the entire apparatus surrounding her. From Papoose to the fan pages, to the media figures who refuse to hold her accountable, to the AI images that present a version of reality that does not exist. Delusional is the diagnosis, and it is spreading through every layer of this situation like a contagion. Now I want to talk about something that has been quietly bothering me about the way Claressa Shields and her camp are moving, because the comparison that keeps coming to mind is not flattering, and I need y'all to hear it. They are starting to behave like death row records. I am not saying this lightly. I am saying it because the pattern is recognizable. Making threats, going behind the scenes to make people retract statements, pressuring people to go live and say they were wrong, operating with this posture of intimidation and control that has nothing to do with boxing and everything to do with manufacturing compliance. There is nothing legitimate about that approach. If you have to threaten people to maintain your image, If you have to orchestrate walkbacks and apologies to protect your narrative, then your narrative is not standing on solid ground. It is standing on fear. And fear is not respect. Fear is not admiration. Fear is the tool of someone who knows that their truth cannot survive scrutiny, so they eliminate the scrutiny instead of addressing the truth. That is what Death Row did at the height of their power, and we all know how that story ended. The intimidation worked for a while, and then it collapsed under the weight of its own dysfunction. The same trajectory is visible here, and nobody in Claressa Shields' circle seems willing or able to tell her that. Claressa Shields has a Cam Newton interview that is about to drop, and I can already predict with near certainty what will be discussed, because the formula is established, and she does not deviate from it. She will talk about bloggers. She will talk about haters. She will talk about people in the comments section who do not understand her greatness. She will call people broke. She will say the same thing she always says because that is the only material she has. There will be no new information. There will be no fresh insight. There will be no accountability. There will be no moment of self-reflection or vulnerability. And it will not sell a single additional ticket because the audience that watches these interviews is not the audience that buys boxing tickets. They are drama consumers. They are there for the mess, not for the sport. They are there to watch Claressa Shields clap back at her critics, not to watch her box. And Claressa Shields has confused engagement on gossip content with genuine commercial demand for her athletic performances. Those are two completely different audiences, and the overlap between them is far smaller than she and her team seem to believe. The irony of all of this is staggering, and it needs to be said because it is the tragedy at the heart of this entire saga. Claressa Shields is one of the most accomplished athletes in the history of combat sports. Her accolades are real. Her Olympic medals are real. Her professional championships are real. Her skill inside the ring is undeniable and has been proven repeatedly against the best opponents in the world. She is a generational talent, a trailblazer, and a role model for young athletes who see themselves in her journey from Flint, Michigan to the pinnacle of global boxing. But instead of letting that legacy speak for itself, instead of allowing her accomplishments to command the respect she so desperately craves, she has entangled herself in a situation that is actively eroding her public standing. Every interview where she deflects instead of answering, every social media post where she attacks instead of reflects, every moment where Papoose hides behind her instead of standing beside her, chips away at the respect she claims to want so desperately. You cannot demand respect. You earn it through your actions and your character, not through your accomplishments alone, and certainly not through intimidation campaigns against people who ask you fair questions. And right now, the actions are telling a story that contradicts everything Claressa Shields wants the world to believe about who she is and what she represents. Shenica was right. Claressa Shields is looking like Plan B. The man she is with has not completed his business with his wife. He is benefiting from Claressa's income, her platform, and her visibility. He is absent when the questions get tough and present when the cameras are rolling and the money is flowing. And Claressa Shields is left to defend an arrangement that she did not design and cannot control, using words that are not her own, fighting battles that are not hers to fight, while the man who orchestrated the entire situation watches from a safe distance. The threats, the social media posturing, the intimidation campaigns, the walkbacks and retractions, all of it is a smokescreen designed to obscure the fundamental reality that this relationship is not what it is being sold as. And the more Claressa Shields lashes out, the more obvious that becomes to everyone watching. The louder she gets, the more transparent the desperation becomes. The more she calls people poor and losing, the more it sounds like projection from someone who is losing the one thing that all her medals and championships cannot buy, which is the genuine respect of the audience she is trying so hard to impress. So I want to hear from y'all, because this is a conversation that needs to happen in the open instead of being shut down by intimidation and name-calling. Do you think Claressa Shields is genuinely unaware of how this situation looks from the outside? Or does she know exactly what she is doing and is choosing to play the role anyway because the benefits outweigh the reputational damage? Do you think Papoose will ever finalize his divorce? Or is the ambiguity part of the arrangement, a permanent limbo that allows him to benefit from both women without fully committing to either? And do you think the media figures who keep giving Claressa Shields a pass will ever start asking the real questions? Or is the double standard permanent and the accountability will never arrive? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because I genuinely want to know where y'all stand on this. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe so you do not miss the next one, because this story is far from over and the tea is only going to get hotter from here.